Hi there, and welcome to my early access beginner's guide for Kangas Seeds of Civilization. I'm Icon, and this video will summarize the gameplay loop for you, and I'm going to explain everything, how it works, and also I'm going to go over a couple of early access kinks that right now need your attention to properly enjoy this game. So, before we get started, let's summarize the gist of this game. You're playing a roguelite building simulator with a lot of goals. Like every single of these things here is a mission where you have a goal to achieve, and you'll need to survive long enough to get there. Across the course of your runs, you will unlock new stuff. I'm going to explain all of that later, but that's pretty much the base premise. When you start out, you always have this environment here, randomly generated for you, and you start out with a thinker, that's your commander, and a couple of braves, those are your workers. You always have to start out to build a bonfire, which will be the base of your operations. This blue circle around here will determine where you can collect your resources from. So the more you know about this game, the more importance you will see in the positioning of this bonfire place. But the rule of the thumb is quite easy. Don't settle too close to other people because they will not like your people passing by, and there will be war otherwise. So keep your base starting point a little bit further away from these dudes. Okay, so when you've set up the bonfire, you have that exclamation mark where you can select your first technology. This is a housing technology, quite obviously. We get to select what kind of housing we want to pick up. My personal recommendation for you, check out what kind of resources you have here nearby. These icons give you also a pop-up, which depicts what it's supposed to mean. And here you see the costs of these houses. Don't build anything where you don't, when you're not sure if you have the resources for that. I'm going to explain you where to find all these resources, don't you worry. But when you're freshly starting out, there's nothing wrong with that. And the second thing, try to avoid houses that have the no attachments tab, because attachments are really useful, and I'd not recommend playing without them before you know what you're doing here. So for this one, we're going to pick up the wood house, which features sturdy construction, has double health, has a capacity of 3 people, needs a little bit of reed and logs, and yeah. All of these houses have their own special traits and all. You can re-roll them, one free re-roll per mission, and yeah. When you select them, technology goes down there into the bar. As you see here, there's a couple of slots, and then there's a big question mark. Big question marks are festivals that you can unlock, which basically often are goal of your mission. So holding down Shift allows you to place several of those while left clicking, and R rotates buildings. So I'm placing down a couple of blueprints here to fulfill the first mission starting out. Build a campfire, build a couple of houses, get a source of food. That's always the same procedure. I'm also starting out with a bakery. I adopted this technology from a run before. But to get new technologies, you need to select your thinker, and when you select him, you get a highlight on these shiny little dots there. You just send him over there, and then he starts researching there. A couple of things are to be mentioned. If there are enemies in the vicinity, they get magically drawn towards your thinker. When he dies, you're losing the game. So be careful with that. The first couple of technologies are always spawning pretty closely to your place to make sure that you're going to have a couple of starting things. So here we get a food technology, as the icon implied. And you can now select either a crop row or a paddy. As you see here, these are placed on grass, these are placed on fertile soil. You can select as you want to. Since this one is produced with reeds, and I got reeds right now, I'm going to select this one. So, needs to be placed on grass. As you can see here, this ain't grass, this is dry grass. You get to read out what's under your cursor up here. So this is fertile soil, dry grass, soil. But you will notice that you can build something if the outlining there has a yellow shade below its bottom there. Here goes. Boom. And whenever you have researched 3 of these technologies, you will reach one of these question marks, and then your thinker will run to the campfire and invent a new festival. But before we do so, before I click here, because whenever you click at these things, you select the new thing, I'm going to wait until the crop field here is done, and I'm going to get my new quest here. So, current goal, research a landmark festival, construct enough landmarks, host landmark festival. So this is your goal to finish this mission per se. So now we're going to check out here. So here are festivals. Each festival has a requirement of population and a requirement of materials. And it also has always a kind of a side effect here. The feast satisfies the needs of the buildings. The reed bonfire grows an abundance of bamboo in your area. We're going to re-roll and see. Well, I didn't get any new choice here. So researching the landmark festival has to wait then. I could now re-roll at the cost of karma, but karma is your resource that persists in between runs. You shouldn't spend that just for a reroll unless it's really important. So we're going to take the reed bonfire because it's a really easy one. It doesn't require much population. It just yields some karma. And bamboo, well, we don't have any, so it might be useful, no? But I'm tired of not owning any clay on my own, so let's see if I can find some. If you zoom around the map, this is what clay will look like here. That dark brown stuff. The brighter brown stuff is mud. You can pick up that clay, but we won't be able to do so because there's fierce competition around here. Maps are randomly generated. If you ever happen to be very unhappy with the seed you're spawned at, well, retry. It doesn't hurt. Some of these seeds are, due to the early access nature of this game, pretty kinky and hard to play, and, well, I wouldn't mind if you'd... I would strongly recommend to reroll if you have the feeling as if things aren't working too good. So up here you also see there's weather. Some buildings get influenced by weather. Your people get influenced by weather. Basic line is people don't like to be in the rain. So here we get a new resource building, and here we can transform clay into reed, or we can build a clay pit, which will endlessly produce clay for us. So that's ideal. Since I don't have access to clay, I'll instead use some of my fertile soil to artificially produce clay for me. Problem solved. And that's how this game also works in general. You will hunt for these technology nodes the further you're playing, which yield more and more technologies. These technologies can have a big variety here. So yeah, let's pick up one of our people here. You can left click and select anybody on the map, or drag and drop a rectangle on their heads, and now you see my cursor has a little 8 underneath. This is always depicting how many people you have under your cursor. Holding down left shift allows you to select multiple of them if you hit them, and over here you see something special lying around. This is rifleman gear. Let's send our people here and see what happens. So we gained some riflemen, as you see here. Our people got upgraded massively because we found random gear. This is also randomly spawned, and yeah, as you can notice, it's pretty valuable. So let's head over here and research something. And over here, we'd also have other technologies on these ledges. You'll have to find ways to get up there. There are technologies and tricks to get there, or you just accept that you don't get there at some runs. Like I said, early access makes some things act a little bit weirdly, but there are bridges, for example. So if I would pull a bridge technology, I would actually get an opportunity to build over there, just to give you an impression. And now, as you see here, there's enemies swarming to my thinker because he's researching something. So let's quickly pick up that technology. Or if it's something you don't want to have, You can also reject something and select a passive skill for your settlement. So since I don't want to lose my thinker, I'm going to run away. And if these dudes would be foolish enough to follow me into my base, they'd be smacked. Up here you see the HP of your thinker, the blue bar here. And yeah, that's how things work so far. Another thing that I want to talk about is how to well understand these people around you here. They will not attack you unless you attack them. If you attack them, their response will be quite fierce. So try to avoid attacking your neighbors just for no reason at all, unless you're down for a challenge and you're feeling like it. Okay. Next step, what we need to cover here is how do you actually gain more people. So up here you see a food counter. Food is being produced by our farms. Well, our clay pit doesn't exactly produce food, but produced by farms. Here are bakeries, are attachments to houses. As you can see here, we can just attach that. And the bakery costs 2 clay and gives me the ability to transform reeds into food. Whenever food is available and housing capacity, our braves will pick up some food and get in there and get in that house and just do what people do when they want to become more people. It's not really depicted or explained how it works, but you get the idea. So food is, apart from that, not necessary at all. You only need food to reproduce new units. And if you don't have food, you will not be able to reproduce your braves. So here's a couple of things that can grow a little bit wild. Like I already mentioned, sometimes it is the RNG is pretty hard on you. So in this scenario, for example, I happen to not see too many chances to get new technology, but here's something. So because I don't want my thinker to die, this time I'm going to pick up all my people and we're going to get over there. You can play this like any real-time strategy game, but there's a couple of things you need to be aware of. Your NPCs will, if they're not following any of your commands, wildly attack anything in their vicinity. They really have no sense of self-preservation whatsoever. So you really are in a pretty bad shape here. And also, for some reason, sometimes maps like these just spawn where I can say it's nighly unplayable, because I don't have access to another technology blip without annihilating a different settlement. And I need another technology blip to unlock the next festival. So, in short, I'd personally, if I'd really want to win this game, I'd actually reset this one and try again. Or maybe up there's one. Let's see. So this the map generator does have some wild things going on, and oh, we get lucky here. We got lucky. And sometimes things aren't working out as intended. But I'm pretty sure that this will be ironed out in the long run. After all, this is an early access version. And in that regard, it's already doing a pretty good job. Here's a couple of other things that are worth talking about. We're going to be able to build at some point military buildings. Oh yeah, I'm researching one. Perfect. So these riflemen here are usually the product of a military building where you can transform your brave into military units. So here, perfect example. We can build a barracks now. Let's do this. So as you can see here, the room is slowly growing narrow, and now it's time to talk about the claim land option. When you select this, you can build a little bit of a totem somewhere. This enables you to build in this area, and also it unlocks access to these resources within that circle. So I click here, place down that thing, and once it's built, it's automatically built. Everything is automatically done by your braves, per se. So you just need to place down the command. And once it's built, you will see that these resources will rise accordingly to the amount within the circle. So as you might already notice, but at the same time, resources are quite finite in this game. Of course, there are sometimes buildings like the clay pit which allow you to produce resources infinitely, but the acquisition of these technologies, whether or not they will spawn and stuff like that, is always kind of random. So let's build a barracks there. And as you can see here, the next festival is being invented. Here, wood landmark, that's what we're need. Build 8 tall wooden landmarks that can be seen on the horizon. So here we go. That's the first part of our big challenge. And now we need to construct enough of those to actually finish the scenario. But here we now see that there's combat. Luckily, our people automatically take down the enemy braves. So here's one of the things that I personally kind of dislike about this early access version. Combat is a hot mess. You can't put units on a hotkey. You can't really interact with the combat properly. You don't have any HP bars over your units. It's even hard to actually select your people. A couple of things that I discovered. Holding down left shift and clicking these icons here, or no, control, so sorry, left control, and clicking these icons allows you to select everybody there. So left control and right click and left click. Yeah, no, right. Sorry, guys. Yeah, left click. Left control and left click, and these icons allow you to bundle your troops up quite effectively. Another thing that you can do is you can select one brave and hold down the left control key again and right click something there. So for example, these reeds. Boom. You also might have noticed that the cursor transformed into a little axe. So now this dude is actually carrying these reeds, and you can now get over here and control right click the bakery here, and then the dude will start to manually produce the food. Okay, somebody else was faster than that, but with this method you can basically do every procedure manually if ever the need arises. So you can do these things. Oh, look at that, the mud pit has ultimately, no, it has been destroyed. The building has collapsed. And here you see this house has not too much rain protection there, so it collapsed due to that. If that ever happens, just dismantle that, or, well, I don't know if you can repair them. I actually haven't tried that out yet. Yeah, well, you can rebuild that stuff, just like that. And yeah, this pretty much sums it up. So in this scenario, I would need to build 8 of these landmarks as a final goal. There will be always a higher building difficulty level called Ante. Ante ticks down on its own. So there's a difficulty level that scales up the longer you stay in a scenario, and every single of these resource totems that you build increases the ante by 1 as well. So rapid expansion does amp up the difficulty level of this game in particular. And there's a lot of interactions in this game quite hidden in detail. For example, the patties that grow best in a flooded area. If you check this out, down here, this gets flooded quite regularly. But I can't build here because I don't have a resource totem. So we need to actually claim that spot first. Let's do this for the sake of demonstration. And then I could build my food income there a little bit more efficiently. What you'll need or not need in every single scenario is wildly variable, and you'd be better just focusing on what's feeling right in the particular scenario. Most of the time, it's some sort of festival that you need to pull through to win the game. Another thing worth mentioning, though, is if you can't win a scenario, it's very much worth it to at least play as far as you can, so far that you can do one of these festivals, for example, to grind some karma, because karma stays between runs, and therefore it is valuable. So down here the barracks has been built. To transform somebody, we're going to pick him up and left control right click, and then he's going in, and now as you can see here, producing warrior. And that's how you do it. Basically, every interaction with something can be forced by picking up a brave and left control right-clicking, or left control left-clicking the person. So you see here we're running out of reeds. So I would have needed a tech which can replicate reeds, or I'll just put down another totem down here and increase my range of influence. And yeah, that's how you play this game. So far, big problems during the early access I stumbled into. When your resource totems are too far away from your main spot, your braves will do something like they'll pick up a resource there, run back home, meet an enemy somewhere, and be like, oh, enemies, drop their resource and start fighting. This is something I have found no cure for, except for not building resource totems where the logistics would traverse through enemy territory. Be very, very careful with that. Because, the worst part about these resource totems is, unlike other buildings, I can't click and dismantle them. So that's pretty nasty. And here's another thing. Your neighbors from time to time demand a tribute. This is a pretty hot mess event. You will have to pick up this stuff manually. So you will have to, let's see, they want logs and reeds. So you pick up one of your braves and you send him, control right click. No, control left click, I'm sorry. To actually pick up that wood. And then it doesn't work. Okay. So, but the long story short is, these demands, you need to fulfill them manually. You need to pick up the resources with your brave and carry them there. Or I don't know if there's any shorter solution to that. I surely haven't found one yet. Or you just straight out deny them, and then they go to war and keep attacking your base for a while. I really, really hope that sometime in the future we'll get a function to automatically fulfill the demand. So my people run over there and bring that stuff. Because right now, I've tried it several times. 2 times that I tried to manually fulfill the demand, what happened was that they took half of my tribute, and then the timer ran out, and then they did that and demanded they demanded something right away anew. So when that happens, you're going to war. So your people are in general pretty good at defending their base on their own, but well, to avoid all this, I'd strongly recommend you, sadly, right now, to either have strong troops to fight that back early on, or, well, you study where your resources are at, and you just provide the resources manually. But as you've seen here, it wasn't too hard. I don't know how hard it grows in the later stages of the game, but I really, really hope that sometime in the future we can just fulfill that automatically. Okay, and that pretty much is what we can do here. So let's surrender to the menu. Whenever you surrender, you will keep your karma you have grinded up. Oh, I didn't show how to do the ritual. You just click it and then you activate it. It's pretty self-explanatory. Way more interesting is that you can keep one of the technologies that you've unlocked in the last run. So you can't keep rituals, but every technology that has been researched can be brought into another run. So there's a little bit less randomization there. So here I'm picking the clay pit because I found that very useful. So after a run, you'll be going back to your home. You hold down the right mouse button to move your dude. And at home, you can select other thinkers. So this is only one of the dudes with his own strengths and weaknesses. Color set, so you don't have to look at the same every time. And there's also other thinkers that you can unlock with own specializations. So they have a different amount of starting resources, a different amount of starting troops. So Garum starts with warriors from the get-go. They have different movement speeds and so on and so forth. There's also different festivals assigned to these people, so a couple of individualizations. Over here is a trader that takes your karma and unlocks new buildings for that. So as you can see here, with my 3 karma points, I'm not able to unlock too many new things except for awarding apiary scares away smaller beasts. I'm not too interested in that. So over here you can then select your quests. So here I got a quest that would unlock the Thinker Garum, or the other one unlocking the area of the Pebbles. So you select that, and then you get into the specifics about the quests. So there is, so far, a nifty amount of content here. The game thrives around the replayability and the different maps that are around there, and its biggest weakness right now are, in my opinion, user interface weaknesses. So stuff like the combat issue that I mentioned, stuff like the fact that I can't control my people from not attacking enemies randomly, for example, or avoiding that randomly monsters run into my base that have been attracted by my logistics. In general, there needs to be a little bit more. We need a little bit more of control over the actions and things that happen in the game. But as you can see here, there's a lot of stuff that's still to be done. There's also a roadmap announced, and there's really a lot of love to this game. And I can only recommend it in that sense that I think that this game shows a lot of promise because it has a nice, fresh take into the roguelite genre, where you don't have to do endless fights and you're not in that deck builder genre anymore. But at the same time, I find it very refreshing to have these scenarios with a clear goal, and if I don't manage to get that goal, I can grind karma, which allows me to unlock new things. I hope that these unlockables and things get expanded in the course of the early access phase. Over here at this pedestal, you can see what kind of different buildings there are and which you have unlocked already, how they work. And as you can see here, there's already pretty much something around there. So for an early access version, for a very early access version, I find that pretty decent. But this game just needs more of that, basically, more flesh on the bone. But yeah, I'm really curious to see where it goes, and I wouldn't have taken the time to recommend and learn how it works if it grabbed me, you know? I had a lot of problems finishing the first level here, the arena level, where I had super many issues in terms of surviving, and when I accidentally aggroed mobs and all these things that I was talking about. But at the same time, I wanted to come back and get it done. Usually when games show when a game really is not there yet and bores me, I usually just toss it away. But this one, I wanted to get it done. I wanted to know what it unlocks, and it I can only say there's a nice reward of getting over those early access problems there, because under all that, I think a great game lies to be uncovered, and I really hope that the one-man developer behind all that, well, listen, it's just one person, gets gets the job done and gets a couple of these things down that right now block the fun of that. So that's the end of my beginner's guide. Questions and comments go down there in the comment section, and a big thanks to the developers of this game for pulling me in and giving me a chance to give this game a free go. Thanks for that, and of course leave a thumbs up on that video if you enjoyed, and consider subscribing to my channel. There's daily content coming up there. All you need to do is turn on the notification bell and you won't miss anything in the future. Also, I'd be super happy if you check out the description box there. There's my Twitch channel where I do daily streams, or at least I try to, and my Discord channel where you can find like-minded gamers, and last but not least, also ways and means for direct support for my channel and my video project. I'd be delighted if you check them out, but don't you worry if you don't. Watching this video already meant a lot to me. Thank you so much for being around here, and I hope to see you soon again. Bye-bye.